Hey everybody, Eric Dorward here with the Spartan Rocketry Club, and today I'm going to be beginning a new build. This would be the Estes Loadstar II. Now, this one, first of all, it came in a bulk pack, so I don't have any pretty artwork to show you right now, but the basic gist of this is it's a payloader, which is nice. Plenty of space in there for, I don't know, an altimeter or other fun stuff. But it's also a two-stager, which is why I picked up this particular set in bulk pack form for the club, because this is a decent, although maybe not the greatest choice for a very first two-stage build. There are certainly easier ones, but this one covers a lot of ground, and it also happens to be one of the very few two-stagers that you can buy in a bulk pack for a reasonable price. So anyway, let's get started. This one does contain balsa fins, so it's time to process them. I don't actually need them for a little bit, but just a quick sand. I have a nice new piece of sandpaper in my block, so this is going quite quickly, which is nice. There is a second sheet to this, which I've already done. There isn't a whole lot of balsa to deal with here. There are three fins, obviously, in this. I think these are the second stage fins. But of course, the first stage, the booster part, that needs fins as well. So there are a total of 6 fins that I need to process, and then there's also a standoff piece that really need to sand it, I guess, but wouldn't hurt. Of course, the goal here is to get any particular ugliness out of the wood before I start assembling things. I'm definitely not going to get all the grain out. That's why we spend all the time finishing it. Okay, that feels pretty good. Okay, shouldn't need my bit of newsprint anymore, but I do need my hobby knife. Remember, while you could punch these out, because there isn't really much holding them in place for the most part, that would not be a great idea. Run the hobby knife across most of the lines, and you should be able to get rid of enough of the burrs so that the pieces will just fall out, or at least fall out with a little incentive. Yeah, this one's probably right here. Maybe this one too. The one that's holding things together the most. Yep. So out comes that one. This one, it's like remaining burrs right there. There we go. These two are actually connected. Okay. Notice too that I'm cutting away from the bulk of the fin here, just in case like my knife slips. Wouldn't want that, because I wouldn't want to go like that. That would be unfortunate. This one I'm going to take a couple lighter passes at, because there we go. I don't want, again, to do any damage. All right, halfway done. Yeah, these fins are bigger, so I'm assuming that they go on the first stage rather than the top stage of the rocket. So this is a two-stage kit, which is, flying 2 stages in model rocketry is not the easiest thing you could do. It's not, I don't know, it's not like it's impossible. It's not a huge step up in skill, provided you follow the instructions, the flight instructions. It's not that bad, but it is less reliable than a single stage, of course, because there's more that could go wrong. The basic way this works is the 2 motors, at least in this kit, are going to be physically touching. And the first motor is a specialized motor for two-stage launches only. So this will be flying off of either a B or a C60. The second number tells you how long the delay is before the ejection charge pops. So a B60 has no delay. As soon as the motor is spent, the thrust part, then it'll immediately pop the ejection charge. Naturally, you wouldn't want to do that for most rockets, but in this case you do, because that ejection charge is what's going to ignite the second stage. So the first stage pops this way, with gunpowder, the burn ejection charge pops this way. The second stage is literally touching it, so the ejection charge goes right into the second stage where we would normally put an igniter, and that's how it catches. There can be some trickiness to that, but since they're going to be in physical contact, I actually haven't had any fail for that reason to date. And probably saying that, I will doom myself to have a launch where the second stage doesn't catch. But in any event, yeah, that's how the basics of it work. And so the first stage is then going to fall off. So when the ejection charge pops, it's going to separate the two bits. The first stage is going to fall back to Earth, and the second stage is going to ignite and then continue along on its merry way. All right, so this is taken care of. We do need to get my newsprint back here, and I need to sand off the burrs. So I'm going to stack my fins. I have to do this in two separate spots. There are a good number of burrs, and they're pretty inconsistently placed. So I'm just, oh, that makes an awful sound. I'm just going to sand off like this, and the burrs are gone. Same thing on this side. Pretty good. There are actually a couple little, there's at least one burr on the top bit, so that needs to go too. The other nice thing about doing this is that the laser burns the wood, right? So it discolors it, it makes it dark. Sanding that off makes it light, it makes it easier to paint. This is the part that we absolutely need to sand, because this is the root. This is where it attaches to the body tube. And can't have any burrs there. Any burrs there would mean that we don't get a good, strong bond with the glue. All right, so repeating the process. Now you can generally tell, if you can't see the burrs themselves, you can see when the wood changes color from dark to light. So once that's happened, the burr has to be gone. Some of this is a little unnecessary, like me sanding this side, because the next thing I need to do is round at least the leading edge. So that would have taken the burr off anyway, but might as well be consistent. All right, last but not least, I have these two pieces. I'm pretty sure they're going to be glued together, and they're going to form a standoff for the launch lug. Because the body of this rocket is actually narrower than the payload section. So in order to use the launch lug, it has to be elevated above the body tube. All right, so I didn't take care of the front. That's pretty trivial, but that's fine. All right, now I'm not going to do all of this because it's going to get kind of tedious, but this is the point where we need to round the fins. So I'm going to do maybe 15 passes in one direction, and that's rounded a bit, and then 15 in this direction. Okay, then take a look, see how rounded it looks, see if it looks uniform. And there's some like fuzziness going on here, so I'm just going to pass the sanding block over top of it here and try to remove some of the grain that's kind of like, I don't know. It looks like fuzz. I mean, it's wood, but it looks like fuzz, and so I want to remove that. In general, that looks pretty good. I'm going to do the other 5 off camera because there's no real sense in watching that. So I suppose I might as well do the back edge too. This is for aerodynamic purposes. Have a look. The middle of this looks like, I have to check it on this side too. It looks like the middle of this isn't really rounded at all. It's like I got the front and the back, but not the middle. Yeah, it looks like that's true for both sides, unfortunately. So it needs a little bit of a touch-up. Yeah. This happens with larger fins from time to time. Yeah, so this part right here and this part right here, so these ends look pretty good. They look rounded reasonably, but yeah, the middle just like didn't get much done. So go over them again. The leading edge is of course more important, but neglecting the trailing edge isn't good for the aerodynamics either. All right, so that looks reasonable. Just looking at this, there's a little chunk, a divot in the balsa here, so this definitely needs to be properly treated when I done, and started the finishing process. I don't know why that happens. Sometimes it just happens in shipment, or it could be a defect in the balsa, but like that's not going to sand out. I would have to sand a good amount off the entire fin, and I don't want to do that. So, all right, that's good for the fins, at least for now. We do not need to watch that, but what I'm going to do, at least next, is I'm going to start building. So there are essentially 2 motor mounts that need to be built. By the way, so this bit is the nose cone. I'm going to have to cut this apart. I'm not going to do that right now because the nose cone of this gets painted black. So I'm just going to paint this whole thing black and then cut it apart. So that goes downstairs to be painted. I need those. I need those. And there should be, yes, here they are, engine blocks. Now, for the most part, motor mounts are all basically the same, at least for single stage rockets. But for a 2-stage rocket, this is going to be different because essentially it's going to look like this. There's going to be a motor mount pointing down in one direction, and there's going to be a motor mount, or an engine block rather, pointing up in the other direction, which is kind of odd, but that's just how it works when you've got 2-stage kits like this. So these 2 are going to be different. It'd be important to make sure that I know which one's which. Okay, so the first one is going to be for the booster stage. That's the first stage. I need my ruler, and I need to measure off. I need to measure off 3/4 of an inch and 2 inches. Okay, there's 3/4. There's 2. All right, so I'm going to apply glue at those points, although I should probably remove these first. Now, again, you can cut these out with a hobby knife, but I found for the most part it's not really necessary or particularly helpful. It'd be great if that would stop rolling away. There we go. These can be done by hand without any particular risk. Just be gentle, go slowly, and try not to deform the cardstock when you're doing this. Go one at a time, and you notice I'm keeping my thumbs like right next to each other, so I'm not like pushing far apart and not really knowing what's going to break. Okay, there we go. All right, so glue up my 2 lines. I'm actually going to put these both on first, and I'm going to put them interior here. It does not matter which one goes where. This one has been cut, this is just like a generic pattern that Estes uses to allow an engine hook through. Well, there's no engine hook on this because it's a 2-stager. That's just not how they're built. So we can use either one in either place. It doesn't really make a difference. Glue at both of my lines. It's kind of drifting, I can tell. That's okay. Actually might make things a little bit better, who's to say. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this all at once. So I'm going to put the other line of glue on as well. Okay. And then I'm just going to slide these into place. Don't worry about the finesse adjustments here momentarily. Let's just get them where they're supposed to be. Okay. All right, now of course it's important to make sure that these aren't slanted. This one is, I can tell, just by looking at it. And you also don't want them to be warped either, so like you don't want it to be twisted around. I believe that that's a particular problem for this as I've got it. It looks pretty good. And I'm going to smooth out whatever glue that got pressed up. Ultimately, I want to make a fillet here anyway, so that's kind of a good start to it. In fact, I might as well do that now. The hole there will make this slightly more difficult, of course. You're not going to be able to do a complete fillet on the one that has the hole in it, but most of a fillet will suffice. All right. Smooth that glue out. And I've got plenty of extra, so I'll wipe off my hands. Yeah, I'm not even going to try to avoid that hole. I'm just going to deal with the fact that there's probably going to be some like extraneous glue in it. Looking at things here, I need to make some slight adjustments. They look pretty good, but this one is it's a little bit warped. All right, now the last thing, the engine block needs to go in the bottom. I've turned this around enough so that I don't completely remember which one is the bottom and which one's not. I think the one that had the hole in it was the top, but this is definitely one of those measure twice or cut once kind of affairs. So, the way I have it right now, this is the bottom because this one's 3/4 and that one's 2 inches. But as it turns out, it's slightly different, but yeah, this is the direction we want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a big arrow down, and I'm also going to write first on this because they're going to be pretty similar, and I don't want to screw this up. Yeah, anyway, the last thing I need to do is just put the engine block in here, and that's easy enough. I'm going to put some glue on the inside of this. There we go. And then in goes the block. Easiest thing to do, get it halfway in or so, and then just push down and use the table to make sure that you've got it nice and flat. Okay, that's my first stage motor mount. I think this is probably a good place to stop for the time being. Next video then, well, I gotta finish processing these, but the next video will start with the second stage and go from there. Thanks for watching.